Yo, guys, what's going on? Lucky Cheese 7 is back again to give you guys another live stream manga discussion. This time it's going to be on the long awaited Chainsaw Man Part 2, Chapter 1, or if we're going to be super technical and numerical about this, Chainsaw Man Chapter 98, which, interestingly enough, is what they're going by. Uh, Based off the Manga Plus translations. And having said that, y'all know what's been going on my end ever since I did the last Chainsaw Man live stream discussion. And this is my first time actually doing a discussion primarily on the manga. So I figured I'd take care of this before I'm needed elsewhere with the family. So with that said, this was an interesting chapter. I just want to say that right now. This was a interesting chapter to start off part 2. And it was something I mentioned in the stream I did yesterday where I said part 2 could potentially go the Tokyo Ghoul reapproach where part 1 was so centered on Kaneki and then refocused heavily on Sasaki Heise. So I was like, maybe it's not that much of a stretch to think we could see like another character take the center stage of part 2 for the most part until we slowly get reintroduced to every other character. And it seems like we're going that direction. It seems like it because uh given the circumstances of this first chapter, and I'm about to dive into that right now, we start off immediately, with the teacher saying, starting today, we'll be keeping a class pet, the chicken devil. Go on and introduce yourself. And if you look at it, it's not exactly like Pochita, but the design is, in a sense, very kind of similar to Pochita. And it kind of harkens back to that promotional image we saw a couple days ago, where we see this chicken devil, and its name is Bucky. My name's Bucky. I'm excited. Legit. I am excited to be friend you all. And then you see the teacher, Tanaka. 3 months from now, you kids are going to kill and eat Bucky. You see, I want you to understand how precious life is. But, Buck, what the cluck? And interestingly enough, this chapter title is called Bird and War. And that's a very, very direct chapter title, to say the least. Because Bird, you understand, okay, it's referring to Buggy, and War, it's kind of like, hmm, I wonder what that's implying. And then you kind of get that at the end of the chapter. But you see these students. Is it really safe to touch a devil? Nobody's afraid of chickens. It must be a weak one. And you're seeing them like all pet Bucky. Bucky saying, but I don't want to get eaten. If you eat me, I'll die. Oh, it's so pitiful. It's cute. And while this is going on, we see Mitaka, or in this case, Asa Mitaka, who's standing by the door. She's walking in. She says, "It's sitting on my desk." And the second she sees it, she says, "Like, and this is all inner monologue, by the way. Die." The students are looking at her, and they're all just like, "Oh, yikes! Was she glaring at us?" I mean, if I remember right, her parents got eaten by a devil, which is interesting. She was like, "My, not she, but the students are like, huh, I mean, her parents get eaten by a devil. They're all talking. Asa's looking at all this. Don't walk side by side. People can't get past you. Quit hanging out in the bathroom. You're in the way." And she's seeing, like, you're seeing these little perspectives that happen. Like people walking down the hallway, people talking about the restrooms, bathroom in this case. You see a nice, lovely couple, and immediately she's like drop dead. And then we get to the rooftop scene, which the second I caught this, my mind immediately went to the one shot Fujimoto just released, Goodbye Airy, which is a fantastic story, by the way. If anyone has not read Goodbye Airy, I encourage y'all to check this out because when you read that and you go to this, like the similarities, and it's actually interesting because now that I'm looking more closely at it, Asa kind of looks a little bit like Airy, the design wise and everything. It looks similar in that case, which I thought was really cool. But we're seeing this. She's sitting by the balcony, very similar to how Yuta was in Goodbye Airy. You see the student walking over to her. You won't make any friends eating alone. And she's like, Class Prez, I don't need friends. They're pointless. Wow, so cool. I think I'll eat here too. Again, kind of reminiscent to Goodbye Airy with Airy and Yuta. Which I thought was kind of cool. Ah, and you're seeing the class prez holding a bun. And based on her facial expression, she just glances over and she says, "Ah, a chainsaw man bun. I'm collecting the stickers. If you have any, give me." And then Asa's looking over, and this is a pretty key dialogue that I think is a big thing that says a lot about uh, Asa's character. The city's corrupt, and that goes all the way back to the beginning of part one too, when you're seeing how things were for Denji, seeing the different aspects in the story, the different commissions that were going on, how things were run by Makima. So it's interesting getting that perspective from just that one line of dialogue that the city's corrupt. Most of the buildings are illegally constructed. We have a mayor with a do, a devil called Chainsaw Man playing Devil Hunter. And now we're keeping that chicken devil as a pet in our classroom. Class press looks at this and she says, as far as Bucky, just hold it in. It'll be dead in 100 days anyway. And then we get this line of dialogue where Asa says, I wish Chainsaw Man and Bucky would both hurry up and die. Then we see Mr. Tanaka. Raise your hand if you can solve this problem. Bucky raises his hand. I don't know. It's not clucking with me. Then don't raise your wings, sheesh. Sheesh. Which gets all the students laughing. Besides, Asa. Everyone's laughing besides her. See the class prez. Want some fried chicken, Bucky? Cannibalism is. uh, Fujimoto and his classic humor. I love it. But you're a devil. They're all laughing. Besides Asa, or yeah, it's Asa. Let's see here. Bucky, why don't you just run away? Buck, I'm so weak. A stray cat could execute me. Execute me. Again with these egg buns. Uh, okay then. I'll bring my cat to class next time. They're all laughing. Now here's the thing. You don't kind of get this glare stare that Asa's been given to everyone. Now she's kind of got that look like, I wonder what that could mean. You're seeing all this. You see the prez giving Asa the look. You see Mr. Tanaka. Today's 3 months of having I said having Buckies with us at school. I will now ask a student with Devil Hunter aspirations to kill Bucky. That's interesting how it's been 3 months now because it feels so seamless and it just flows very naturally when you're reading this. Like, oh, and you're seeing all this. All right, Peacock, and You see, like, this grin that Asa's giving, like, finally, class pres, sir, the whole class talked it out, and we've decided we won't eat Bucky, which completely stuns Asa and going like, wait, what? We eat living things. We can't deny that. But Bucky isn't a chicken or a devil to us anymore. Bucky is our friend, our Nakama, if you will, if we're going the full shonen phase route here. Again, class prez, see Mr. Tanaka, and he's like, "That's just what I wanted to hear." Asa's going like, "Excuse me, uh, okay." Bucky is hereby pardoned, like just like that, within seconds, and will continue to live as a member of the class. Buck, Paka, everyone's cheering. As your teacher, I didn't want you to take life lightly, not even a devil's. I am so proud of you kids for learning this lesson. Forget math class today. Let's all go out go outside and play some soccer. Everyone, cheering and relaxing. And then there's a Asa or Mitaka in this case. Mitaka's there. And I might go back and forth on the names. Asa, Mitaka, it's same person. So Mitaka's there. They're all enjoying themselves except her, and you just kind of see this sad, solemn look on her face. And Tanaka's just like, "Aren't you going to join in?" No, high school more fun with friends, you know. And again, this also really speaks a lot about Mitaka, where she says, "I'm here to study, not to make friends," which catches his attention. And then you get the class press. Hey, come play soccer with us. No, and you have Bucky saying, "Baka, Asa Mitaka, come out, come out of your shell and play soccer with me." And again, that completely throws Asa off because she's like, My name," but only the class president and the teacher even remember my name. You see her get, and he's embracing her. She doesn't know what to do. She's kind of got this awkward look to her. Got the class pres, got the students or her classmates, and she's seeing all this, and now she's kind of having a second thought, like, "Oh, I see. I was jealous of them." Waving her hand, walking over, and as that's happening, she trips. Oof! Which she sees this, she looks over, and then we see Bucky dead, just on the floor. At least that's what it's implying as. We see Bucky over there. Mr. Tanaka's there. All the students are like in shock because you have Bucky. His intestines are like out, like out. Everyone's in tears. Which then you got Mitika feeling really bad. Everyone's crying, and they're all just seeing this, which is where you get Mitika vomiting and falling unconscious. Thinking hypothetically, if one person in class had to jump off the roof and that person was to be chosen in a vote, I think they ought vote for me. I'd vote for me too. Which again I find kind of interesting because tying back to Goodbye Airy, that's another thing I'm noticing about this chapter is when you look at Goodbye Airy now, which by the again is a fantastic story, and you're kind of seeing how Fujimoto kind of used that as an illusion as to what we're getting here in the first chapter. I think that's incredible. I think that's really really incredible to see because you're getting the same thought process too between Yuta from Goodbye Airy and now with Asa. So she's in her room, wakes up, you see the tombstone from Bucky, walks over into the class, everyone's giving her the stare, And poor girl, like, oh my god, I, I want to die. And then you see the door knocking. She wakes up, looks over, and she's being led somewhere by the teacher, Mr. Tanaka, and the class pres. It was the class president's idea to visit Bucky's grave. I'm sure Bucky will forgive us up in heaven if the three of us apologize together. That's kind of what it seems like. It's like, all right, you see this and you're thinking, huh, like it seems a little too real. Mitaka, what's wrong? She's standing there, unsure. Like they've crossed the road except for her. It's just the crossing signal's red. It's night. There aren't any cars and no one's around. It's no big deal. But you're right. Sorry about that. Safety first. We should always obey traffic signals. Class Prez is there. Like you see her looking at Mitaka, and then just says, "You always do this, huh? You're always such a goody two shoes. A very by the book student, if I'm being real." And she's like, "Prez, Mitaka, did you know that Mr. Tanaka apologized for Bucky's death to the whole class on your behalf?" So this is kind of that shift in personality, if you will, where the class pres is a true persona starts to kind of kick in. Did you know Mr. Tanaka was the only one who told me to be friendly? Huh? Did you know that Mr. Tanaka likes you even though he's having sex with me? And when I read that, yo, like I I shouldn't say I'm that surprised given that it's Fujimoto, but it took me by surprise reading that. I was like, "Whoa, okay." And given the emphasis on, the way he paneled out this chapter and the way the dialogue was being introduced and with the way the characters are shown, how they're expressing things, I find that fascinating. It's honestly kind of fascinating just to reading that. It's like likes you even though he's having sex with me, which again completely throws Mitaka off. Prez, you and you're seeing all of this. Like you're seeing what looks to be a devil of sorts. You're seeing the classmates there. I made a contract with the Justice Devil to find out how to reach my happy ending with Mr. Tanaka. And look, Chainsaw Man had some pretty fucked up things to say. That much is a fact. Getting this though, on top of it, I was like, dude, it, again, coming off from Fire Punch, this shouldn't be that big of a surprise, but it takes you aback in a pretty big way, if I'm being honest. I just need you to die. She's doing that. Mitsuka's trying to run away. I held it in, but I can't take it anymore. Nothing I try works because you're alive. He says, Prez, you know what? The Justice Devil said to me, trip her, she'll fall, and crush Bucky. So, what seemed like an accident was actually a really intentional thing that was done, and a very manipulative act, too, which, again, I still think is pretty fucked up, but given that, I laughed my head off. You and Bucky taught me how precious life is. Thanks. And as it's happening, you see class press 0.1 seconds before my impending death. I felt oddly relieved, is what Mitaka's thinking. Oh, I wasn't responsible for Bucky's death after all. Oh. class president was jealous of me too. Oh, it must be like that for everyone. Everyone's jealous of someone, and that ties all the way back to where this chapter starts off, where you kind of see Mitika having this thought going like, "Oh no, I was just jealous of them," and now she's gonna thinking, "No, actually, everyone's jealous of somebody." We're like kind of delving into the psyche of of a particular character, which I think is pretty cool. If I had known I could have lived a better life, maybe I could have had friends, or even which I'm keeping this dialogue in mind because if we know anything about a certain other character from Chainsaw Man, I wonder if this is what Fujimoto could be alluding to because she says, or even a boyfriend. Which getting that line of dialogue by itself has me going like Fujimoto. There's a lot of ways you can interpret this, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people who are listening to me right now probably are getting an idea that could this be potentially be Denji's, love life. I'm not saying that, but could be. Could be. I just wish I tried just living a little more selfishly. We're seeing her eyes, we're seeing the traffic signal, and what looks to be a bird of sorts. If you want to live, your body will be mine. Who? And then you're seeing Mitaka get up on her feet. Huh? Mitaka? D- Which, again, completely shocks the class press. Like, didn't I just kill you? Even Mr. Tanaka's surprised too. Like, what? And you get this cold ass panel from Mitaka. It's the same kind of look you would get from other characters, um, in the situation. This cold, emotionless stare. Tanaka, spinal cord sword. What, what the hell are you? And you're seeing what she's able to do, and she's like, "What the hell am I? My name is War Devil. Die for my warm up kill." And to which the class pres is like, "No, you die." Or in this case, we can just call her the Justice Devil. We're seeing this, and literally, Mitaka has no chill, like none. She's unfazed by all this. A fine hand, I'll take that. Hand grenade, my, my arm, G- give it back. She's doing this. We're seeing her use Mr. Tanaka as a sword, obviously, ripping through the Justice Devil, Mr. Tanaka. And literally, right as that's happening, class prez, Mr. Tanaka, smooch, just as what she wanted. And it's funny because Mitaka says exactly that. Like, there, a happy ending. Which, it's funny we brought up Goodbye Airy again because, again, there's just so many parallels. Like, this shot right here. If you're looking at this shot right now and you did not think of Goodbye Area, I'm just like it's pretty clear. It's if it wasn't clear before, it's clear by this point that this was intentional by Fujimoto. What he released with Goodbye Airy, all of that was alluding to here. And this very first chapter of part two. Obviously, it's done a little differently, but it's the similarity. It's so uncanny in a very good way, and I love it. By the way. Just as Mitsuka's just casually walking away. And as it's going on, you're seeing her look over. She sees the poster of Chainsaw Man, calling party, hall to what looks like May 12th. And then it says, just you wait, Chainsaw Man. I'll make you vomit nuclear weapons back up. And that's where the chapter ends, which I'm not gonna lie, reading the end of this chapter had me left for a couple questions, which is, will the focus of part two be entirely from Mitaka's point of view? And we're gonna be viewing from her eyes that, well, I mean, obviously, yeah, we're gonna be viewing from her perspective that Denji's going to be the antagonist of the story. That's one possibility. Or what I could also see is a dual perspective story where this first chapter opened up with Mitaka, and maybe potentially chapter two, we focus back on Denji. So it'll be like a dual narrative story where we focus on Mitaka and we focus on Denji. And that would honestly be really cool. I think that'd be really, really fascinating where we see what's going on from her side of things, but we're also seeing what's happening with Denji. Now, we know Denji's story from start to finish of part one. So obviously, for a lot of us, we won't view Denji as the antagonist. However, that's not the same thing for Mitaka. A lot of people could say, oh, Mitaka could be viewed as the antagonist or the villain in this situation too. And it wouldn't be the first time, we've seen a villain taking a center stage focus on a story. I mean, look at Light Yagami from Death Note. That's a clear representation of a villain being the protagonist of the story. And we could very much see that here too. That's a possibility. Granted, like I said, it's only just the first chapter of part two. Maybe chapter two and onwards, we focus entirely on Denji for the rest of the story. And this is all just a backstory setup for Mitaka. Who really knows? And I think opening up the first chapter like this speaks volumes for Tatsuki Fujimoto as a writer, as an artist, and just for the story of part two as a whole. I mean, people were kind of cautious, like, okay, we go from this non-school like setting, and now we're kind of delving into like the school setting aspect for part two. A lot of people weren't sure how to take it, but now looking at just this first chapter, I I have no doubt Fujimoto could probably do it. I have no doubt that he could do it. I mean, like, given with what I've read from Fire Punch, Chainsaw Man, Look Back, Goodbye Airy, there's a lot there Fujimoto can do. And like I said, Fire Punch wasn't exactly my cup of tea, but I can at least appreciate it with what Fujimoto was going for. But Chainsaw Man, Look Back, and Goodbye Airy are just god tier quality to me personally. And I'll say this, my overall rating on this chapter of Chainsaw Man Chapter 98, Chainsaw Man Part 2 Chapter 1, I'm going to go ahead and give it a pure perfection rating. And that is rare for me to give for the very first chapter of the time skip. It's very rare for me to do that. A time skip or just, the second part of the story. If I want to nitpick something, I do kind of wish we kind of saw Denji. That's my one little nitpick I'll give the story. So if I'm going to be super technical here, say amazing plus. But again, that's only if I'm nitpicking that we didn't get to see Denji. Outside of that, it's a pure perfection chapter, in my personal opinion. And I so can't wait to see what we're going to get with the rest of part two. I don't know for sure if it's gonna be a bi-weekly release or a weekly release, because I do know Manga Plus when it comes to their schedule. Some of their series they do bi-weekly, and some of them they do weekly. If it's weekly, I think that will be really fun to me personally. But I do see we've got a comment from Boyan, and Boyan says, "What do you think of Bucky? Is he dead?" At this point, it's like 50-50. I want to say he's like 70. I say 50-50, but let's say this. Let's say 50% of the way through, Bucky could be dead. Or 50% of the way through, Bucky's not dead. So I think it could go in either direction. I'm personally on the route to say Bucky's probably dead, but we'll just have to wait and see. Overall, that's my thoughts on Chainsaw Man Chapter 98, Chainsaw Man Part 2, Chapter 1. Let me know what you guys thought about the chapter. How do you feel about Mitaka? Do you feel like she's going to be the center stage focus of Part 2, and we're going to be seeing the entirety of the story from her perspective, seeing Denji, or do you think we're going to get a dual narrative perspective between both these characters? And aside from that, guys, that's pretty much it. I'm Loki7. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more Chainsaw Man. And like I said, the chapter is pure perfection, technically amazing plus, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.